The United States is honored to present our first Universal Periodic Review to the United Nations Human Rights Council. It is my pleasure to introduce our delegation, which is comprised of senior officials from 11 United States departments and agencies, a representative of our local authorities, and 2 advisors from civil society groups.
It's an honor for me to be here today. We look forward to a productive and constructive conversation.
Cuba recommends to end the blockade against Cuba, which is described as a crime of genocide, to put on trial the perpetrators of torture, to halt the war crimes of their troops abroad, put an end to the prosecution and execution of mentally ill persons and minors, and to discrimination against persons of African origin, to ensure realization of rights to food and health of all who live in their territory.
The Islamic Republic of Iran, while condemning and expressing its deep concern over the situation of human rights and its extensive and systematic violation by the U.S. government at both national and international levels, calls on the U.S. government to implement the following recommendations: to halt serious violations of human rights and humanitarian law, to legislate appropriate regulations to prevent the violation of individual privacy, and to take effective measures to counter insults against Islam and the Holy Quran, as well as Islamophobia, and effectively combat violence against women.
The United States of America, since its very origin, have used force indiscriminately as the central pillar of its policy of conquest and expansionism, causing death and destruction. The United States of America, which pretends to be the guardian of human rights in the world, questioning other countries, has been and continues to be the one which most systematically violates human rights. Nicaragua therefore makes the following recommendations: to immediately halt the unjustified arms race and to judge those responsible for all war crimes and massacres against unarmed civilians, women and children, as well as torture, assuming responsibilities which have been caused by capitalism, causing natural disasters, particularly in the poorest countries.
The DPRK remains gravely concerned by persistent reports of systematic and widespread human rights violations committed by the United States of America, and recommends as the following: take legislative and administrative measures to address a wide range of racial discrimination and inequalities in housing, employment, and education, prohibiting and punishing the brutality by law enforcement officials. Take effective measures to put an end to gross human rights abuse, including violence against women.
My delegation recommends that the American government adopt an overall plan to combat racial discrimination.
We remain concerned about certain U.S. policies and practices in the field of human rights, and therefore Egypt presents the following recommendations to the United States: to review its laws at the federal and state levels with a view to bringing them in line with its international human rights obligations, to devise specific programs aimed at countering growing Islamophobic and xenophobic trends in society, to end the use of military technology and weaponry that have proven to be indiscriminate and cause excessive and disproportionate damage to civilian life.
Also noticed with concern that there are gaps in the U.S. laws protecting human rights. There is also a serious discrimination against Muslims and minority racial groups. In the name of fighting terror, the United States is also monitoring the exercise of its citizens' freedom of expression and the right to free internet access. We have the following recommendations: in the excessive use of force by law enforcement agents, modify the definition of discrimination in its laws to bring it in line with international standards.
I'd like to begin by thanking the many delegations for the warm welcome to this chamber and to this conversation. It's an honor to be here in this chamber.
We are concerned about human rights violations in the United States by way of example, racism and racial discrimination and intolerance against persons of African origin, as well as Arab, Islamic and Latin American origin. We would like to make the following recommendations. The United States needs to accede to international human rights instruments. It should prosecute those responsible for violations of human rights in American prisons.
We're proud to be here, but we're also humbled by the recognition that we need to continue and even redouble our efforts as we strive to make ours a more perfect union.
Thank you. Thank you. The work of this very council is very close to the history and culture of our country, but we recognize where our work is incomplete. We appreciate the opportunity to present the UPR report to the Human Rights Council. deep commitment of President Obama has said.
President Obama signed. The Obama administration is committed.
First, the Obama administration began by turning the page and unequivocally ensuring the humane treatment of all individuals in U.S. custody in armed conflict. President Obama categorically affirmed. President Obama has clearly and unequivocally ordered. President Obama cannot close Guantanamo alone. That also involves our allies, the courts, and our Congress.
As President Obama has made clear on many occasions, the only way we can promote our values is by living them at home.
As President Obama reaffirmed, President Obama signed, President Obama also created a very important priority for the Obama administration. President Obama has taken a number of important steps. President Obama created for the first time, the Obama administration is committed.
Many Americans are personally opposed to the death penalty, including myself.
President Obama has recognized President Obama's observation has been addressed. President Obama hosted. President Obama signed a historic reform of the U.S. health care system. President Obama signed into law.
The Obama administration has stated its commitment. President Obama earlier this year signed landmark Affordable Care Act. The Obama administration is committed